it appears David Moyes now has backtracked at last. It feels like finally he's holding his hands up and going, this isn't working. Things are not working, what I've been trying to do. As stubborn as that man is, it feels as though he's sort of backpedaling on what the plan was this season. That's my opinion of it. I'm talking about the Everton game, the performance, not so much the performance as such, but the lineup, the way we set up to play. Because over the summer, David Moyes, and when we started the season, have been talking about that we were changing our system. We had to change our system. I don't really get that, personally. I'm not really a big buyer into this. We had to change our system. We had to change everything. We had to become a possession-based team because that's what top sides do. My opinion is, if something's working really well for us, why bother changing it? You know, we've been doing it for a while and it seems to be going okay. So I don't really know what the issue is. I'm not saying have only one route of playing. I agree you should have different options, but if something's not working, then just don't do it. And it just feels that we've been sort of obsessed with this desperation to change the way we're playing, and it hasn't really been working. But when you watch West Ham play against Everton, it did feel like a little bit like the older setup. I quite liked it. I actually like the three at the back and the wing backs. I think it worked really well. I like it. I really do. I think it gives us what one, we look more comfortable at the back. We look a bit more solid. I mean, Naif Agurd was outstanding against Everton. A massive addition. Him and Zuma are brilliant. Even Ogbonna, to be fair, he did very well. I thought, he didn't have a great deal to do, which is always a good sign, I think, for a central defender. You've then got the wing backs. I mean, Emerson, I've not been impressed with him at all. I thought he played really well. I thought he looked really good. I think that role really suits him. He's obviously a better advancing left-sided defender than he is being just stay at the back and defend. I think going forward, he looks pretty good. I was very impressed with him. And the fact is, you can sacrifice him going forward and then getting a little bit caught out because you've got the three at the back. You've got Agurd who can step in. I just felt it worked really, really well. I really liked it. And then you've got Soufal, who looked better in that role as well. It's clearly obvious now, for me, pending no more injuries. We've just done one on Danny Ings, and I'm still seething over that, trying to get into that too much. Pending no injuries, if that's the back five, stick with it. It worked really well. I really liked it, actually. Souček dropped. I mean, oh, thank God. It made such a lovely difference, didn't it? It really did look better. Lucas Paqueta and Rice works miles better. That's a lot of Paquetas and betters, but you know what I'm saying. And I liked it. I thought it was really good. I thought we played really well. Don't get me wrong, it wasn't the best performance in the world. People are moaning and saying, well, we only had 30% possession against Everton, blah, blah, blah. At the end of the day, I'm not really bothered about the possession too much. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's nice to sometimes control the game, but like I was saying, if you remember beforehand, that's how we played. We used to like absorbing the pressure. It worked quite well. We'll catch them on the counter, we'll break and go, and I think it worked quite well. I'm not that bothered. If the other team's got the ball, they're not doing much with it, and they're not damaging us, let them have it. As far as I'm concerned, it doesn't really faze me at all. So it does feel like David Moyes is finally stepping back and realising this project this season just isn't working. He needs to backpedal, and thank God, because. Look, it's hard to judge against Everton. It is hard to judge because it's a team that really are struggling. And, I would have been disappointed if, let's be honest, if a draw would have been a really horrendous result against Everton because they've been that poor. So I was expecting us to win some way or another. But I actually thought we played pretty well. Overall, I thought it was okay. And it just works quite well. Overall, it allows Ben Rama to start because you're not requiring the extra defender to come back. We're not so desperate for our attackers to be playing the defensive work as such, because you've got that big back five solid unit. Plus, you've got Declan Rice in there that obviously can drop back as well. And I've got to say, I think Paqueta actually works quite well as a defender in that sort of role. He does battle. He wants to win the ball back. He's not just a flair player. Although, let's be honest, we haven't seen much of that just yet. But overall, I think he works a lot better. And then obviously we've got the striker situation, which is a bit of a weird one at West Ham, isn't it? We've never seemed to get it right. You got Mikel Antonio, far better performance from him than against Wolves. Very impressed with him on the second goal. I thought it was great play from him. And so there's a lot of Antonio hate at the moment. I think, and I can understand that a little bit from the fan base because they're turning around and saying, well, it's because of the comments he's made. And yeah, they were disrespectful a little bit, I would say, although slightly truthful. I have to agree with, but I think it was a bit poor. And I thought his performance against Wolves was pretty shocking. But I was actually really pleased with Antonio. I thought he did all right. I mean, some of his you know, chances that he misses and things like that are a bit frustrating. But overall, I thought he worked really hard and did pretty well. And as I say, the second goal, brilliant from him. And then you got Jared Bowen. I mean, brilliant. I mean, really great to see him back on in the goals now. I wouldn't say he was his best performance overall, but you could see it really lifted him. And I think he just needed that. He alluded to that in an interview as well with the Evening Standard. We talked about it on the website about how the England call-up, or non-call-up, should we say, for the World Cup, really has affected him, affected his confidence. And he's been lingering on it, you know, been playing on his mind, and it's clearly affected him. So I'm really hoping now those 2 goals will just give him a lift. You know, we've got Derby County coming up in the FA Cup. I'd be tempted to play for some of our first team players. I really would. I think we should take it seriously. Not so much because I really want us to go and win the FA Cup. Of course, I'd love us to go and win the FA Cup. That would be amazing. But I'm actually thinking more along the lines of the fact that it just gives those players an extra bit of confidence. You know, if Bowen goes and gets another goal, Antonio gets a goal, something like that, just gives them a big lift. Of course, though, we've got to be careful of the injury situation. I do bear that in mind, and I'm sure Moyes will. But yeah, and let's be honest, it's quite nice that we've won and now we've got a Premier League break. I quite like it. I think it's come at a really good time, actually. Gives players a time to recover. Danny Ings. I mean, oh God, I talked about it in a previous video. I'm hoping by the time this goes out that we've heard better news. The news at the moment is Danny Ings is out for 3 to 4 weeks. I don't know how. I don't know how a player can play for 20 minutes and get injured like that. I just don't get it. Especially when he walks to the pitch looking absolutely fine. I don't understand how that suddenly that man's knee requires a month recovery. I just don't understand it personally. That's my feeling, but I'm not going to dwell on it. But back on David Moyes, really pleased, really, really happy that we seem to have backtracked to a system that bloody works. And you actually got to feel a bit for Moyes in that as well, because not so much the setup, but the fact that it was so obvious how good Naya Fagerd and Zuma work together. It really makes a big difference. Now, I appreciate we're playing against Everton, so you don't jump the gun. We weren't playing against Arsenal. We weren't playing against Man City. We weren't playing against Man United. So it's hard sometimes to judge just how good that was. But I'm sorry, like, you could see it did make a difference. It did. And I'm really hoping now this is going to be the catalyst for us to push forward. I really do. Let's hope that David Moyes is now going to stick to his guns in terms of what we experienced that in that day, stick to that formation because it did work well. If it's something's worked, don't change it. I think that's been a big problem this season, that we've been desperately trying to change things. I appreciate some of the changes have been enforced with players leaving and backroom staff and stuff. But in terms of the play, I don't know why we've been so obsessed about changing our system. Because let's be honest, like we've all said, what the hell is the system? Whereas I actually found against Everton, we did have a bit of a system. I quite liked it. I liked the fact that when Everton had the ball, and don't get me wrong, they looked okay on the ball. They never looked like scoring. I never watched them for, apart from that, say, set pieces, maybe a corner I was a little bit anxious at. But overall, I never, when they were passing the ball around, thought, well, they're going to, I'm panicking here. Not at all. I thought we dealt with them really well. And that's a good sign. Really good. And I hope now that gives them a bit of confidence going in. So, yeah, massive blow about Ings, though, of course. And let's just hope that we get some better news out of that. But on to Derby County now. A big game Monday night in terms of not so much for the result side of it, but for the confidence lift. Let's keep going. Come on, you Irons.